Party and indeed to the Labor Party, who, by the way, voted for BDS on the Marrickville Council and then repudiated and attacked our wonderful candidate for Marrickville throughout that election campaign. This is a nasty, vindictive Labor Party in full flight there, and they were successful. And again, the people changed their vote on that basis. And we don't run the media. But I'm very strong on this issue. We have to do more for the people of Palestine. My motion on Monday, the National Party has the BDS issue up, Marrickville, first vote for 4 new Green senators in the Parliament on Monday. They know the Murdoch press is going to, well, the Australians already run on it, to be portrayed in the way they want to. I've put an amendment in on that motion recognising the right of the Palestinians and the Israelis to live side by side in independent self-determining states. And I will add to that on Monday, inside the 1967 borders. And we'll get that voted down and it won't be reported. But it's a very, very tough world in there, and I'm glad you've been to Ramallah. I haven't, and other people in this audience have as well. But tough political judgments there, and sometimes you have to be able to protect yourself to live another day to fight stronger for a cause like the right of the Palestinian. 1948 is my earliest memory of seeing a newsreel of Palestinians being expelled from their homelands, and I'll never forget it. But you've got to, sometimes it's a very, very difficult position we're in to ensure that this small voice for the Palestinian people in the Australian Parliament grows. Thank you.
How you going, Bob?
Good.
My name's Peter Thornton.
Hey, Peter.
David Richardson of the Australia Institute wrote an article on the 7th of June of this year, which was featured in the Public Sector Informant here in Canberra Times, that strongly questioned the validity of Commonwealth's superannuation liability estimates. And he went on to say that he thought that there was a clear case of double accounting occurring, and in fact said that there was, in his opinion, a $10 billion white hole. Given this article and the weight of evidence that has been submitted to recent Senate review by the Defence Force Welfare Association, the RSL and other qualified independents, including myself, and notwithstanding the Greens issues that are here, but the fact that the Greens have a solid platform of social justice, why did the Greens break their election promise and side with the government to defeat the bill at the expense of not least 56,000 military retirees? And given the fact, and that's my first question, the second question, if you don't mind, is given the fact that the balance of power in the Senate will change in a couple of days' time, can I get a solemn promise from you that with all these people here as witness, that you would take this issue on with the gusto that you did with the Franklin River?
Well, the first thing is that the coalition is into I'm following Charles's question, I'm going to give you an analysis on this. The coalition is into a process of wrecking this government, and tonight Jerry Harvey and the head of a loans organisation and John Singleton have called for a new election, backing up Tony Abbott. And let me tell you, there is a rampage on here, and one of the tactics they're using is to bring into the Parliament legislation with a massive expenditure account to wreck the ability of the government to be able to deliver. Now, the cause you're espousing, which is proper indexation of defence personnel pensions and superannuation.
And Commonwealth.
Yes, but the opposition didn't put the Commonwealth in, it just had the defence personnel, is one we went to the last election with. But this piece of legislation will, according to the opposition, would cost $300 million. According to the government, with consequent liabilities over the forward estimates, may cost $6 billion. whatever, we moved in the Senate to say to the opposition, if you will accept Treasury's recommended mineral super profits tax to help fund this, and we want it right across the Commonwealth, we will support this legislation. You have to show how you're going to fund it, Mr Abbott. And they voted that down. And when they voted that down, we voted the legislation down. This is a responsibility on our shoulders to show how we're going to fund enormously important and measures affecting tens of thousands of people. Now, if you can get and help us get the opposition or the government to get that mineral resources super profits tax on these giant mining corporations, 83% owned outside the country, sending $50 billion out of the country in the next 5 years. If we can recoup the 20% we should for Australians of that, we can fund this policy. We can't put up legislation that is unfunded. The Greens have that responsibility. The opposition has decided it's not going to share it anymore.
The 300 million was my figure, and I gave a very explicit blow-by-blow breakdown of the actual costs and how it was actually calculated. And I petitioned all senators and the Parliament in general to access the Future Fund. There's a separate funding vehicle there that you could have accessed, but it seems as if a social justice issue for at a bare minimum 56,000 retirees has given way to this issue of the political imperative to introduce the mining resource rent tax. Irrespective of all that, Bob, my second question, I guess, to allow other people to ask questions, will the Greens honour its commitment, now that it has the balance, to take on with gusto this issue, which affects war widows and orphans and disability people, in the Senate as a matter of priority?
For those who don't know, the point, this is an important point about pensions for thousands of people right across the public service. It's not about them not having pensions, it's about it being indexed in a way that the age pension is now due to the Greens' action, which gives an increased flow of pensions to people who are on relatively pinched circumstances. But the funding of that is important. Yes, we will continue to advocate for that, but we have to find a funding vehicle for it. And we are in this invidious position of if we don't fund education, if we don't fund hospitals, if we don't fund pensions, we can do without the super profits tax. But neither of the big parties is prepared to get a fair tax return on this nation's resources. If they did, we wouldn't be having this debate. And responsibly, we can put the legislation up. I know what will happen. As soon as it gets to the House, it will be ruled out of order if you don't have a funding mechanism. And I've spoken about the constitutional ramifications of that today. So I'm prepared to keep pursuing that issue, not at the expense of other issues, but along with them. Thank you.
Okay. We've probably got time for... Sorry to cut off your applause there, Bob. Probably got time for one more question.
Do you have a question at the back, Richard?
Okay, two. The louder voice gets one, if you're quick.
Hello, I'll be quick. I really enjoyed your address to the press club today, Bob. One of the things you talked about was high-speed rail, and my question is about whether we're all in too much of a hurry, and maybe we need maybe we need a Greens principle to slow down and enjoy the journey.
Yeah. I totally agree, but the advantage of high-speed rail is it does bring. High-speed rail in Spain's brought 20% of people down out of the air, which has been a huge environmental dividend. It's got problems with it, of course, but it's fast, efficient, modern transport at its best, and it's very much an energy saver compared to the alternatives. And I'm sorry to keep harping on this, we're not going to have it though. It's a pipe dream unless we get a fair return on our resources. And Naomi Edwards, whose report we've released today, points out that iron ore at the moment is bringing these massive profits to foreign-owned corporations like BHP and Rio Tinto, both three-quarters owned outside this country, and it's got a 25-year lifespan. Gold has got a 15-year lifespan. In other words, the halcyon days of gold extraction in this country have got as long forward as I've been in the Senate, and we're not going to tax that at all, nor uranium. So we're safe about high-speed rail. We simply won't get it unless we utilise the wealth of this country in a much more considered and sensible fashion. Thanks for the question.
Okay, one, go for it.
Given that New York just legalised gay marriage and that every Labor state caucus except New South Wales has endorsed gay marriage as a party policy, do you think it's time for Julia Gillard to bring legislation before the Australian Parliament legalising gay marriage?
Yeah, it's far too late. But I got asked today if Paul and I were going to get married, and you close your ears, Paul. And I said, I don't think so. Thank you very much. But we're quite settled and happy. But we have a commitment, he said, and we did. We had a commitment ceremony down at Liffey, which was really wonderful. But of course, we have to get rid of this discrimination. The people who love each other. Of course they should. As I said in the Senate years ago, why should John and Jeanette's relationship be treated differently than Paul and Bob's? And you know, that's where it's at. There will be a change. I think the Labor National Conference, and we need to keep working on them, everybody does, later this year will change it. And when that happens, we're on the way to getting this, to following New York and getting rid of that little piece, well, it's a big piece of discrimination as part of the maturation of our society into the future. But everybody needs to keep working on it. And Sarah Hanson-Young's got a bill before the Senate from the Greens at the moment. We know that if we put it up, it would be defeated at the moment. But I think within 12 months, that will change. Julia Gillard and I disagree on this matter. I must say, she's a very matter-of-fact dinkum person who sticks to her word. You know, she'll be listening to what her colleagues have to say and what the public's got to say on this. I hope she's watching those polls. And I feel very positive about getting legislation for equal marriage through the National Parliament before the next elections.
All right, look, I'll bring this to an end in a minute. Before I thank Bob, just a little bit of housekeeping. The next Politics in the Pub event will be here on the 20th of July, where I'll actually be speaking. Bob, you'll be glad to hear about the mining industry.
Oh, I want to come.
And then in August, we've got Ronnie Khan, who set up the food rescue service, Oz Harvest. She'll be speaking here in August. So there's some show bags about the Australia Institute if you haven't been along before, and some clipboards. If you give us your email address, we'll give you those dates again. But the 20th of July is the next one. But Bob, look, just I'd like to say thank you so much for coming along tonight, and despite the conspiracy on the out the front of the Chinese embassy with the traffic and. What with world government and all on your agenda, it's fantastic that you can come along and speak so optimistically and from the heart about such a broad range of issues. So thank you, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you everybody.